know, the Oscars are right around the corner, y'all. March is gonna be here any second. Sinners actually has 16 nominations, y'all. 16. Like, they broke Oscars history. And as someone who actually just saw Idlewild for the first time recently, I couldn't help but think how Idlewild and Sinners are cousins. And I intentionally say cousins because they don't give siblings, definitely not twins, but they're in the same family, like they're absolutely related. Let's get into it, y'all. I want to start with the main characters in both films. So at the top we have Rooster, who's played by Big Boy, and then Percival, who's played by Andre 3000, and as we know, we have Smoke and Stack. Now, although Percival and Rooster aren't siblings like Smoke and Stack are, they did have a very close relationship since they've been friends since childhood. So they're not blood brothers, but they're chosen family. I'm pretty sure y'all already caught on to who's more like who, but I'm just gonna point it out anyway. So Stack and Rooster are essentially the same person, very larger than life. Everyone loves talking to them, being around them, large personalities. Not only do they love money, but they come up with great schemes to make the money. And when it comes to their counterpart, people typically like working with them more, simply because they're more personable and less off-putting. And speaking of off-putting characters, let's get into Percival, who's actually the son of a mortician. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, there's definitely gonna be spoilers. I'm chatty, like I can't help it. Anyway, if you haven't seen Idlewild, I would suggest that you don't watch this video. But if you have seen it, let's discuss. Anyway, what I was getting into is that the mortician background kind of adds to why Percival is a very tortured spirit. His mother dies when he's like 4 or 5 years old, and his father is tasked with not only handling her body, but also planning the funeral and doing everything for her because he's the only mortician in the town. So even from a young age, he's always been very grounded, introverted, kind of just like off-putting because his trauma kind of kept him from being like everyone else. I forgot to mention, their home actually doubles as the funeral home. So he's always been surrounded by death. He's never had a normal childhood, so he was never going to be like everyone else, but they kind of just treat him like some weirdo, unfortunately. Now, as we know, Smoke's tortured background comes from unfortunately having to kill his own father due to him kind of beating him and his brother who couldn't defend himself as well as Smoke could, as well as the unfortunate passing of his daughter. Once you have those two things and then you throw in his time in the military and all the people he's had to kill, the people he grew close to who also died, that's just a lot of death. That's a lot of heavy things to hold on you. It makes sense why both of their characters are very grounded, but like also closed off in a way. And they don't really like being around people all the time. I also want to point out the stylistic choices in their outfits. Smoke and Percival, they're very calm. You know, the outfits don't do too much. So Smoke's outfit is a 3-piece suit, but it's tweed. So cotton wool material, very, you know, muted, not in your face. Same thing with Percival. Now he does have a 3-piece pinstripe suit, but his is super muted compared to Rooster's. Now Rooster and Stack, on the other hand, very gangster coded. The fedoras, the bright ties. I think they both have like a tie chain as well, and then pinstripes. Now Rooster's whole thing is that, you know, not only is he a ladies man and people love chatting with him, but he's also really great with numbers and a great performer. So his uncle is a gangster who essentially takes care of him in his youth and then gives him a job once he gets older because he's good with numbers. As we know, Smoke and Stack were also gang affiliated. They worked with, I think, like 2 rival crime mobs. Another similarity between Rooster and Stack is that they are extremely lustful, and it causes their demise later on. Mary ends up getting turned into a vampire, and then she, you know, seduces him and turns Stack into a vampire as well. In Rooster's case, he's married with like 5 children, actively cheats on his wife every single day when he goes to the club, and he's cheating with his boss's girlfriend. Now, the reason he even gets wrapped up into the whole issue with the club is that he was sleeping with his boss's girlfriend when his boss and his uncle got killed by his uncle's disgruntled employee. And said disgruntled employee knew that he was there because he found the girl's panties by the car. And he kept them and made sure to tell him like, yeah, I know that you know, and now you're gonna do this for me or else I'm gonna kill you. Very messy stuff, y'all. And all he had to do was stay home with his wife and kids. Like, his wife constantly begged him like, please spend time with the kids. They wanna have a relationship with you. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get to it. Very hands off with his kids, super hands off with his wife, but had all the hands in the world for somebody else's girl. Okay, anyway, now getting back to Percival and Smoke, both of them might be a little off-putting when it comes to other people, but when it comes to their person, they are so endearing, so careful. They are super present when it comes to them. In Smoke's case, he doesn't even believe in magic, especially because it didn't save his daughter, but he still believes in Annie, and he shows her every chance he gets. With Percival, he knew that Angel / Shelley was lying about who she was, but he didn't care because he liked her as a person and he believed in her talent, so he overlooked it. In both films, both of their relationships start off distant and then they work their way back to having a relationship or creating a relationship in Percival's case. Now, unfortunately, both of their love interests, Annie and Shelly/Angel, actually do die. And I said it like that because even though they pass on, they still have like a happy ending in a way, even though it's not really a happy ending, but as close to one as one can get. Now, Annie dies because she's bitten by a vampire. Shelly/Angel dies because they're at the club and the disgruntled employee, Trumpy, he tries to kill Rooster, ends up missing. He starts aimlessly shooting in the club. She's one of the people that gets shot. She bleeds out and dies right there in the club in Percival's arms. Once again, adding to like that troubled spirit journey of his because he just keeps getting hurt in his life. Smoke's case is like he's finally good with her again. They're finally trying to think about having a future again, and she's taken from him. And there's nothing he can do about it because she doesn't want to be a vampire. So he has to kill her. And he's the one that ends up taking her life, but only because she asked him to. But that is so much to bear. So he is just like, at the end of the movie, he's over it. He just cannot do this no more. I actually want to build off of how both Percival and Smoke are very depressed towards the end of the movie because they've lost their loves. Both of them honestly try to end their life in different ways, but they still do the same thing essentially. So in Idlewild, Percival is tasked with the same thing his father went through. He has to take care of Angel/Shelly's body, and he has to prepare her for her funeral, which is a very hard task for him. He was in love with this girl. They were supposed to go to Chicago together, start a new life. Mind you, they were supposed to do that in 24 hours. The day goes by and she dies hours before they're supposed to go on the train. So he's just distraught. She had this really big ring that she used to wear, and he put it on her finger as if he were, proposing to her in a way. It was almost going to be a Romeo and Juliet type of story because he was genuinely going to take his own life. He got up on the chair, had the noose ready, and Rooster actually comes, knocks on the door, tries to get his attention like, hey, I found these 2 tickets. He gives him the tickets because Angel would want him to have that new experience and to stop sheltering himself when he could be so much more. Now, in Smoke's case, he's just over it. His brother's a vampire, so he's not getting him back. The love of his life is dead. He's not getting her back. The clan members, he just killed them all, and he didn't even ask for backup because essentially he was over it. He wanted whatever was going to happen, and it did. And the reason earlier I said that they both got their happy ending, or as happy as an ending that they could have with the circumstances, is because Smoke, he ends up seeing Annie and his baby as he's dying. All he ever wanted was to be a father, to be a husband, and he finally got the chance to do that in his last dying seconds. Now, in Percival's case, yes, he loses Angel/Shelly forever, but he's able to start a new life for himself. Instead of being stuck in the funeral home, continuing to see dead bodies every single day for the rest of his life, he gets to be the musician that he's always been, and he gets to explore what that looks like instead of always being somebody who's, sheltered inside. He gets to go out and perform for people who want to hear him. There's also so much character development that we see in this scene. He goes from being like the shy, sheltered person into performing just like Rooster was. So I just love seeing that character arc, and it really was a happy ending for him. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I really love both movies, Sinners and Idlewild. So if you haven't seen either one, or if you've seen one but not the other, I would highly recommend that you watch both, and then, come back in my comments and let me know if you think they're similar or what.